Today's show is brought to you by Bruce Fine Construction. If you can't find the house to buy, maybe it's time to build your house. Bruce built my home, and I know he can build your home too. Check him out today at brucefineconstruction.com or call at 570-362-1185. Today's episode is brought to you by Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. Don't buy a home without getting it inspected. You need to use a home inspector you can trust, and that's why I recommend Eric Rubin at Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. If you're buying a home, call the Rubin team today at 570-438-1010. This episode is brought to you today by Whitehall Mortgage. Where there's a will, there's a Whitehall. Buying a home starts by getting a pre-approval, and nobody does it better than Doug in Dallas. Call them today at 570-562-7505 or apply online at whitehallmortgagefinancial.com. Hey everybody, I'm Dave Wychock. I'm the host of the Real Estate Right Now podcast. Thanks for joining me again today. And today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 real estate terms that might be among the most misunderstood terms in our entire industry. They get used all the time, and they almost always get used incorrectly. People think they're interchangeable. They're definitely not, and they don't really understand what they are. So we just want to cover those things today and explain what they are, why you need them, and what exactly they are for. So those 3 terms that I think people use wrong all the time are inspection, appraisal, and assessment. I hear those 3 things used all the time, and it's very clear to me that the majority of people out there don't understand what they're for. So let's start with inspection. What is an inspection for? Why do I need it? Can a home fail? Can you fail an inspection? So what is it? What is an inspection for? First of all, it's for a buyer. It's always a good idea for a buyer to have a home inspection on a property that they may be buying, because you're going to hire a neutral third-party inspector to come in, and they're going to go over the house from the bottom of the basement to the tip of the roof. And they're going to tell you everything you need to know about the plumbing, the heating, the foundation, whether or not there's termites. Here in northeastern Pennsylvania, you definitely want to have a radon test done. They're going to tell you if there's any issues with the roof, the windows, the doors, every main component of the house. So you definitely want to have a home inspection done, because it's going to tell you areas that you may need to pay attention to urgently or down the road. So that's why you need it, right? Now, sometimes I hear people say, can a home fail an inspection? And the answer to that is, well, no, there's no such thing as failing an inspection. And people say, well, Dave, I had a home inspector. They came out, they said the house needs a new roof. So didn't it fail? Well, no, it just means it needs a new roof. Those are 2 different things, right? And sometimes buyers get concerned about certain parts of the home inspection. So I'll give you an example. You want to have a radon test, especially here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas, and it's been shown to cause cancer. So if your home has radon, you definitely want to get that remedied. But I tell my buyers, when you have your radon test done, if your home has radon, it's actually not a bad thing. In some cases, it could be a good thing. And that sounds crazy, right? Because I just said it's this cancer-causing odorless gas that you'll never know is in your house. Well, if you have a radon test done and your house tests for having a radon level that's too high, you just get it fixed. And in Pennsylvania right now, it's roughly ballpark. Some maybe a little bit less, some maybe a little bit more. It's about $1,500 to get a radon mitigation system put into your home. And the good thing about that is, once you have a radon mitigation system in your home, you'll always know your radon level, and you'll always know that it's at a safe range. Whereas if your house didn't have radon, what are the odds that you would check it again? Probably pretty few people end up doing that. So it's not, when you have that home inspection done, it's not to scare you, and it's not to talk you out of purchasing a home. It's about understanding what needs to be done to make sure your house is in a condition that you find safe and that you find acceptable to move into. So don't be afraid if a house has radon. You get that radon system put in, and then you never have to worry about it. It's the ultimate peace of mind. So a home inspection, for the most part, is paid for by the buyer, so they have an understanding of all the main components of their house. Some sellers will do a pre-listing inspection so they can address some of the issues that a home inspector may find in their house prior to listing. I think those are getting a little bit more popular, and I think they're a great idea. Look, you want to feel confident in what you're selling, so having a pre-listing inspection isn't a bad idea. Now, the next thing, appraisal. What is an appraisal, and why is my bank requiring it? Well, the purpose of an appraisal is to set the value of your home. All right. So why does my bank require that I have an appraisal done? Well, it's pretty simple, right? If a bank is going to give you a $300,000 loan to purchase a home, they want to be sure that the house is worth $300,000. So if you have an appraisal done, it could be a couple different outcomes. One, it can come in at value. I want to buy this house for $300,000. The appraiser says, yes, it's worth $300,000. Congratulations, you're in good shape. Sometimes they can come in a little bit higher, which is even better because now you have instant equity the day you purchase your home. Sometimes they can come in as a conditional appraisal. So what does that mean? They'll say, well, look, you're using an FHA loan or a VA loan. So you want to buy this house for $300,000 as long as you remove chipping paint and you paint over those areas, as long as you put GFCI outlets in the kitchens and the bathrooms, as long as you get the right amount of smoke detectors in all the rooms, once you do those repairs, then yes, this house will hit that $300,000 mark. So it could be a conditional appraisal, and there could be a situation where the house doesn't appraise at value. An appraiser goes out and says, hey, you're under contract for $300,000, but my appraisal says this house is only worth $290,000. So now you have to go back to negotiating between the buyer and the seller to figure out how you're going to come up with that other $10,000. Maybe the buyer is willing to bring a little bit more cash, or maybe the seller is willing to reduce the price, whatever it may be. This is why cash offers have a little bit extra power in the market. If someone's offering cash, the sale of the home is not determined, or it's not depending on whether or not it appraises. So appraisal sets the value of your home. All right. So that's how it's different from inspection. Inspection comes in and gives you a report from top to bottom of all the main components. Appraisal sets value. And then the third term, assessment. Well, if appraisal sets value, what is an assessment for? What does that do? Well, assessment is what your taxes are based on. So an assessment is just for tax purposes. So in a perfect world, you would buy a home where you have a high appraisal and a low assessment. That means your house is worth more than the taxes you're paying on it. Now, if that was in reverse, if your house had a high assessment and a low appraisal, you should go out and appeal your taxes because you're probably paying more taxes than you should. Ideally, they should be somewhat similar to each other, and we see that all the time with new construction. But appraisal and assessment, that's how they differ. Appraisals for the bank, assessment is for the tax collector. Now, sometimes people say, well, Dave, when I buy my house and you know the assessment said $200,000, but I bought my house for $300,000, are my taxes going to go up? Well, in Luzerne County, no, they're not. Appraisal gets done every time a house exchanges hands and there's a lender involved. Assessments are done far less frequently. So, for example, the last assessment that was done here in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, was in 2009. So when you see your assessed value, all right, it's based on what that assessment was in 2009, or if you built a house after that, you get a current assessment. But what's really interesting is prior to that assessment in 2009 in Luzerne County, The assessment that happened before that was from 1965. So it was 44 years in between assessments in Luzerne County. Now, based on the fact that home prices have gone up a little bit recently, will there be a new assessment on the schedule? Maybe, right? I mean, taxes go up, right? I don't think that's a earth-shattering revelation here. But it's important to know the difference between those three terms. Inspection is the top to bottom, all major components of the house, what needs to be repaired today, what needs to be looked at in the future. Appraisal is for the bank to make sure that they're lending money on a house that's actually worth what it's under contract for. And assessment is how your county is going to determine the taxes that you're going to pay on your home. So understanding these terms is important to making informed decisions, and it's important in the home buying and selling process. But that is your rundown between inspection, appraisal, and assessment. Hopefully you learned something today. We're trying to teach a little bit in every one of our episodes, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for today's episode, everybody. If you want to hear more content, follow us at Real Estate Right Now Pod on YouTube. Once you're there, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to follow me directly, check me out. It's Dave Wychock at Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all the socials that you're already using.